The Trump administration's decision to impose sweeping tariffs is not just a distant policy change, but a reality that will soon have direct, painful consequences for American consumers. Initially, many individuals may not feel the full weight of these tariff increases, but as they filter through the economy, it will become clearer just how disruptive and costly they are for everyday life. While these tariffs are painted as a method to pressure foreign governments into trade concessions, the immediate result is a significant and unavoidable hike in prices on a wide range of essential goods, everything from cars to clothing to coffee. Economists and experts have been quick to warn that these tariffs are effectively a tax increase that the average American will bear. This is not a tax levied on the wealthiest or corporations, but on middle-class families trying to make ends meet. As Kimberly Clausing, an economist and former Treasury Department official, explains, this is set to be one of the largest tax increases in half a century, disguised under the guise of trade reform. The reality is that every purchase Americans make, from the basics of food and clothing to electronics and cars, will be more expensive. This means less disposable income for households and more financial strain on those already living paycheck to paycheck. For many industries, the impact will be immediate and undeniable. Take, for example, coffee, an everyday commodity that Americans consume in massive quantities. Most coffee beans are imported from countries like Colombia, Costa Rica, and Papua New Guinea, and with tariffs set to impose a 10% surcharge, the cost of your morning cup is almost certain to rise. This isn't a distant possibility. Coffee shops and roasters are already adjusting their prices. Companies like Grafio, based in San Francisco, have indicated that they've already raised prices by 8% in anticipation of the tariffs. This price hike is not just a temporary adjustment, but could become permanent, as businesses incorporate these additional costs into their price structures. The food industry, particularly those dealing with imports like cashews, olive oil, and certain fruits and vegetables, is also at risk of significant price increases. These tariffs aren't just about the cost of the goods themselves, but also about the increased costs of transportation and logistics. Dina DiCenso, who runs a vegan cheese company, has noted that the rising price of imported cashews could lead to a 25% increase in her production costs. This means that even U.S.-made products, those that rely on domestic ingredients or packaging, are not immune to the ripple effects of these tariffs. Everything from the cost of raw materials to the rising fuel prices that affect transportation is contributing to an environment where prices are climbing across the board. Clothing and shoes, products that are ubiquitous in American life, are similarly poised for significant price hikes. These items, particularly those imported from countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh, will see tariff rates soar to 46% and 37%, respectively. Retail giants such as Nike, H&M, and Gap, who have shifted their manufacturing to these countries to avoid higher costs, will now be faced with steep new tariffs. As a result, consumers will see prices climb, not just on luxury goods, but on essential clothing and shoes. Steve Lamar, president of the American Apparel and Footwear Association, has pointed out that the average tariff on these goods is already 5 times higher than on other imports, making these goods increasingly unaffordable. The automotive industry will not escape unscathed either. With tariffs imposed on foreign-made vehicles and parts, the price of a new car could rise by thousands of dollars. For those looking to purchase more affordable models, like compact SUVs, the pain will be particularly acute, as these vehicles are often made outside of the U.S. Though dealers may have some stock remaining, the reality is that by summer, when inventories run low, American buyers will face a sharp increase in prices. The long-term impact will be especially felt by families who rely on vehicles for daily commuting or long-distance travel, potentially pushing many to reconsider or delay their purchases altogether. The impact of these tariffs on electronics, perhaps one of the most immediately felt sectors, will be substantial as well. With nearly all iPhones made in China, Apple will soon face a 54% tariff on its most popular product. While it remains unclear exactly how much of this will be passed on to consumers, the reality is that these tariffs will likely make popular electronics more expensive. For consumers hoping to purchase a new iPhone, expect to see prices rise by $250 or more. And it's not just smartphones that will be affected. Televisions, computers, and game consoles, which are primarily imported from Asia, will also experience price hikes. As the Consumer Technology Association's Gary Shapiro points out, this is a massive tax on American consumers, particularly in the tech-savvy segments of the population who rely on these products for both personal and professional use. The overall economic landscape is set to be further complicated by these tariffs. Even industries that do not rely on foreign goods for raw materials or finished products will see a ripple effect as costs climb across the supply chain. With less disposable income, American consumers will likely reduce spending, leading to a slowdown in other sectors of the economy as well. Economists warn that this could have broader, long-term consequences, potentially triggering a recession as consumer confidence drops and demand for goods and services wanes. What's particularly troubling is that, for many Americans, these price hikes will be unavoidable. There's little indication that the tariffs will be lifted in the short term, and as businesses adjust their pricing models to account for higher import costs, there's a real possibility that these price increases could become permanent. In essence, Americans are paying a higher price for the same goods they've always relied on, but without any guarantee of improved quality or service. This is not simply a short-term inconvenience. It's a structural shift in how the American economy operates, one that could leave lasting scars for years to come. In conclusion, while the intention behind these tariffs may be framed as a strategic move to address trade imbalances, the reality is far less beneficial for everyday Americans. The price hikes are just the beginning of what could be a much larger economic challenge, with industries across the board facing higher costs that will ultimately be passed down to the consumer. As more and more goods, everything from food to cars to electronics, become more expensive, it's clear that these tariffs could strain household budgets and diminish the purchasing power of American families. For many, this policy is not a solution but a burden, one that could push more people into financial hardship and further exacerbate the already widening gap between the rich and the rest of society. For many,